Hi, I'm Brownfield anchor reporter Brent Barnett, and welcome into the Outdoor Adventures hunting podcast here on Brownfield. It should be a great episode here this week. We're in mid-April and spring turkey season well underway across the state of Iowa and across the Midwest. And we're happy to be joined here this week with John Lusk from Lusk Archery Adventures on YouTube. John, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Brent. Thanks for having me on again. I've been looking forward to this.
Oh, well, likewise. And John, I think it was a couple years ago we had you on the show and you had some really cool breakdowns during deer season as far as broadhead selection. And we wanted to bring you back on the show this week because I feel like archery hunting for turkeys has really picked up steam the last several years here. So, before we really get into that, do you mind catching the listeners up on some of the work you've been doing with Lusk Archery Adventures and some of your hunts you've been on?
Yeah. Wow. Since the last time we've talked, a lot has happened. So the channel is doing great. The YouTube channel, Lusk Archery Adventures. I continue to test a lot of broadheads, like between 50 and 60 or so different broadheads every year. So I put out a video at least once a week, usually sometimes during season, like twice a week, just testing different broadheads. Tested over 300 different broadheads now. So I love doing that. And then I love testing those broadheads in the field as well and going on hunts. So let's see, since we talked, I'm trying to think, I think I went to Newfoundland and got a moose up in Newfoundland. And then I went to Alaska, shot a big old 9-foot brown bear last year with both with my bow. And then just got back from Argentina a couple of weeks ago, where I was able to hunt red stag and water buffalo and got each of those with my bow. And so I shoot those and film those hunts and then put them on my channel as well.
Obviously, a wide variety of big game there, and anyone that sees your trophy wall behind you, I mean, where does the passion come from for hunting, John?
Oh gosh, I definitely have a passion for hunting. My dad raised me that way. I'm the youngest of 6 kids, and my dad was super busy, vice admiral in the Coast Guard, 3-star admiral in the Coast Guard. And my mom was a high school calculus teacher, but my dad always made time to take us to the outdoors and instilled in me a passion for the outdoors. So I've been bow hunting since I just carried kind of a toy bow and walked by my dad's side and let him shoot the animals. Then I got big enough to shoot as well, and then got into, archery like full on. And it's just evolved ever since then. And as the channel has grown, then that's allowed me to have a bit of a revenue stream to go on some big adventure hunts, which is my passion now.
Well, I can tell you, anytime I'm about to make a new purchase for broadheads, your channel is the first place I go. I type in what broadhead I'm thinking about and put your name next to it. And usually there's a review that pops up, and that really helps out. So, how have you seen the channel grow over the years, and what's that experience been like for you?
Oh, it's been an amazing ride. I filmed a couple hog hunts with my bow and put them on a YouTube channel. Didn't really know what I was doing, didn't really care about it. And then I won a broadhead, like in a giveaway on Archery Talk, and a really expensive broadhead. And the guy said, "Hey, I see you have a little channel." The owner, he said, "Hey, I see you have a little channel. Maybe you could do like a test of the broadhead, a review, and put it on the channel." So I had no idea what that meant, but I'm like, all right. And so I shot it into a pumpkin. I shot it into a dinner plate, I think. Like I didn't know what to do to test broadheads, but it got a lot of views. And I thought, oh, this is something I can do year round, unlike hunting. And so I could do a lot more videos like this. So from that time, that was like 2017 till now, man, my testing has evolved quite a bit. And I've gotten a much more consistent regimen and consistent scoring process that I can put any broadhead, mechanical or fixed blade, any size, any weight. I can put them through this rigorous testing process, and then they get scored accordingly. So it's a very consistent test regimen, very objective. And anybody wondering what a certain head is about, they hear about it or are curious about it, they go to my channel or go to YouTube, type in my name, Lusk, plus the name of that broadhead. If I've tested it, it'll come up. And I think it'll be really helpful in helping people figure out if that's the best broadhead for them.
Well, and I think your testing obviously comes with a lot of credibility because I've been at some outdoor expo type shows, John, here recently, and you'll walk by someone's booth that maybe is a broadhead manufacturer, and they'll have a sign up on their booth that says "Tested by John Lusk" on YouTube. So, I mean, that's pretty cool.
I like that. Last fall I got a nice shout out from Joe Rogan. And I didn't even know it. He was on his podcast talking to Cameron Haynes, a professional bow hunter and writer. And then he just mentioned my name, and a viewer told me, like, "Hey, Joe gave you a shout out." And so he was watching one of my videos and then talked about it for quite a bit. So that gave me a nice bump. And I mean, now I don't know what it is, something like over like almost 13 million views, I think it is. And so it's growing quite a bit. And Joe and I have built a little relationship. We talk and message each other all the time about different things. So yeah, it's kind of nice to see it spreading. And really, for me, it's rewarding to be able to give people an objective resource free to just go to cut through, kind of cut through the crap, right? Like what's marketing, what's hearsay, what does this guy say or that guy say? Typically people say whatever broadhead they killed their biggest deer with, they go, "That's the best broadhead in the world." And whatever one they didn't kill a deer with, they're like, "That broadhead sucks." And then there's celebrity endorsements that skew the process. So I like to just give people data points and objective, no nonsense testing so they can see more about it. They can make their own choice. And then I also get a bunch of discount codes, different companies. If I really think the broadhead is worth it then and good, then I call them and I ask them, "Hey, would you give me a discount code that I can pass on to my viewers?" And so a bunch of them do. Others want to give me a code, and I'm like, thanks, but no thanks, because it's not a head that I would really use myself. But if it is, then I also give a discount code for many of them. So people get objective data to help them choose the right broadhead and sometimes make a good deal in the same time in the process.
Man, that's really cool. Really enjoy your story of how you got this going. Like I said at the beginning of the interview, turkey season is on the top of mind of many hunters, John, across the country. And I know you have a lot of experience bow hunting turkeys. And with your experience of testing broadheads, let's just kind of dive in on maybe what hunters should look at when they're selecting broadheads for spring turkey season.
Yeah, there you go. Obviously any broadhead will work. I wouldn't want to get shot with any broadhead in the market, but I'll tell you, turkeys, for just being a bird, like, here's a 20, 25-pound bird, they're incredibly difficult to kill because their kill zone, like their boiler room, I mean, it's about the size of a tennis ball. And when they get all puffed up, especially, they're moving around, man, you could zip an arrow right through them. And if you don't hit that crucial zone, that bird is going to get away. And I'll tell you what, in the early years, especially when I'd be hunting deer in the fall and you could take a fall turkey, I put a number of fixed blade heads right through the turkey and never recovered the turkey. And it was really frustrating to me. And so then I got into turkey hunting with my bow more and more. And I figured out the best way to stack the odds in my favor is to use the biggest cutting mechanical head that I can get. And so that's what I always recommend, a really large cutting mechanical head, just to give you a better chance of clipping that crucial kill zone area with one of the blades. And so my favorites are, like, for turkey, my favorites are to use a front deploying or over the top deploying broadhead. For deer, I like a rear deploying broadhead because it gets a really big entrance hole. And you can use that for turkey. I use those for turkey as well. But sometimes the quills, like if you shoot them in the rear, those little tail quills or the wing butt can be really hard to penetrate, believe it or not. I've heard stories of broadheads just bouncing off. So I like using an over the top or front deploying broadhead because it has a smaller entrance hole, but then it opens up really big. And I like to use a really big one, like a 3-inch swacker, for example. Goes in with 1 inch and then it opens up to 3 inches. Or there's a number, Dead Ringer makes a number of those, Vortex, whatever people want to use. Grim Reaper makes some great ones, like their Whitetail Special. just the largest cutting over the top, especially deploying mechanical head you can get. It's going to fly great and it's going to be quite lethal.
There's a lot of large broadheads out there. One that came top of mind, I don't even know if they're still manufactured anymore, but I remember back in the day, Vortex made like this giant 3-inch mechanical two blade broadhead. I don't, do they even make those anymore,
Yeah,
John?
they do. I mentioned that just a minute ago, Vortex, and I use those and love those for turkey. They're one of the very best turkey heads there is. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And there's others, Executioner. I mean, there's an endless amount of big cut. Rocket makes a lot of good ones, but Vortex is a great choice. And then you got to know where to aim. Like that's a really important thing too, to study an anatomy chart. You can go on Google and you just search under images like arrow placement turkey. And you want to know where to hit them from behind, where to hit them if it's frontal, where to hit them from the side, where to hit them if they're puffed up, where to hit if they're not puffed up. And you just want to kind of memorize it and know, because that makes a big difference. But if you know where to aim and then you use a big cutting mechanical, like you said, then you're going to put them down.
Now, obviously, we always hear during deer season for folks, don't rush the shot, maybe take an extra breath as you're going through your shot process. It sounds like it's really even more important with turkey because, I mean, you and I both know, I mean, they don't hold still for very long.
I don't. And I like to hunt with decoys. I like spot and stalk too, and sometimes I do that, but that's a little challenging with the bow. But with decoys, I've made the mistake being in a blind or a makeshift blind where I set up, behind a deadfall, which I kind of like the open air aspect of that. But it's hard because I always film my hunt, so I got a big camera, and I got to move the camera, so that can be challenging. But wherever I am, if I have decoys, the biggest mistake you can make, and I've made it, is you grab your bow too soon and you move while they're coming in. You want to make sure they come in to the decoy and they're riveted on that decoy. And I mean, they're really smart, but not when it comes to a decoy. And they just come right in, and you want them like so focused on the decoy that then you can move and take a good shot on them. But yeah, you want to be patient. They're not going to just run away most of the time unless you move too soon. So give it time, wait till they focus on the decoy. Even better yet, wait till they're in full strut and they're turned around the opposite way. Then they cannot see you at all. Like that's the only position they can't see you in. If you're directly behind them and then they're in full strut, that's a good time to just shoot one straight in center mass there. But the key is they've got to be looking at something else, because they pick up movement out of the corner of their eye like no animal I've ever seen, and then they'll run away.
Well, I didn't have any luck here this past week. It was season 2 here in Iowa, and I had a season 2 tag. Had 3 straight days to try to get it done. I didn't go with the bow, went with the shotgun during that season, and the public land birds kind of kicked my butt those 3 days. John, I did put on more miles on the boots than I have in quite some time, and never really was in the game. But I do have a season 4 tag, and I've been kicking the idea of maybe taking out my bow with me. I've got a bear compound bow and have a couple Swacker broadheads that are in my quiver. So I'm thinking about it right now. So it's kind of
Yeah,
it's exciting when you start watching videos about it too.
it is. And I think, at least when I was hunting there in Iowa, I think if you go bow, then you can do any of the seasons. And so it's nice to be able to have that flexibility. You're not just locked into, a short time window.
Yep, definitely. Well, John, really have appreciated the time here on the show. Again, could you maybe tell the listeners how they can find your show and maybe give a brief description of how you test these broadheads?
Yeah, so go on YouTube to Lusk Archery Adventures. And that'll have all my videos. And I have like 430 videos or something like that on there. A lot of them are my own hunts from all over the world, but most of them are broadhead tests. So what I test for is like the most crucial areas. I test for flight, I test for penetration, test cut size, sharpness and edge retention, and durability. And each of those I score at the 20-point maximum. So they get a total of 100 points in the score. So it's a really easy to follow process. And you can, maybe you're looking for one that penetrates really well because you're going after a big animal or you have a light setup. Well, you can key in on that test. Or you're looking for something that flies really well. You can key in on that test, but you can cater what you focus on in the test based on what matters most to you.
There's always a trade-off, right?
Everything's a trade-off, no doubt. That's right.
John, hey, thanks again, and best of luck to you this season, and good luck with the channel, all right?
Thank you very much, Brent. It's great talking to you.
Likewise. Again, that's John Lusk with Lusk Archery Adventures right here on the Outdoor Adventures Hunting Podcast from Brownfield Ag News. Thanks a lot for watching us this week.